Welcome to Arcadia. One of the most searched DM tips in the internet is how to make the players care about the DM's campaign and world. That question resonates a lot with me as an author because that is what is constantly on my mind when I'm making manga or writing books. How can I make the reader care about what I'm writing? That can be achieved in several ways, and I do have 5 simple tips to help you with that. Link in the eye up there or down below in the Underdark. But don't underestimate the difficulty of this task, because we're talking about actually manipulating our audience's feelings, and many DMs tackle this problem through the wrong angle. Players won't be automatically interested just because we ask them to. We can't dictate their feelings, only modulate them. However, DMs still fall in this trap all the time, usually without even noticing. Did you ever tell your players something like, "You entered the ancient tomb of Solomon and as creepy moans echo through the cathedral, you start to feel anxious"? Why do we tell the characters start to feel anxious? I know that's the feeling we wanted to reinforce, but that's not how it works. We can't dictate that a player or their character will feel a certain way. We need to make them fall into that state of mind with our words and actions. With world building and campaign investment, something similar happens. You can't just tell the players their characters want to do the mission, or that they are very attached to that particular town, or even that they feel curious about the local legends and mysteries. You don't control the players. If anything, they control you. So how do we deal with this? We focus on what we can actually control, and this does not include the players, to convince them that exploring the world or engaging with a campaign or investigating our mysteries is worth their while. Everything we do must focus on drawing the players towards our content, not on directing them at it. It's a subtle but quite meaningful difference. We must not be like a gust of wind pushing them towards where we want them to go, but instead like a magnet drawing them towards us. We must convince them that it is in our content that the fun lies waiting. In writing, this often takes the form of the show don't tell philosophy, but in RPGs I feel like it should be about 85% show don't tell and about 15% what I call leading by example. When thinking about this, I often go back to my days in college. The Portuguese academic tradition is way too complex for me to explain here, but to put it short, we have a set of traditions meant to welcome the freshmen into university and accustom them quickly to that new reality and all those unknown faces, where the upperclassmen go around dressing the academic uniform and make the freshmen go through a lot of games, pranks, silly moments, and solemn ceremonies. There is a lot of singing. In fact, each faculty has several anthems they like to sing against the other faculties in friendly competition to see which one has the most passionate students. In my last years in college, the upperclassmen would sit the freshmen in rows and host rehearsals of the songs, so they'd be ready for the clashes against the other faculties. I always thought this was a horrible idea. This is not fun at all. It's work. It's boring. When I was a freshman, it was different. No one taught us the songs word by word. The upperclassmen would simply start singing or yelling the songs, and they would all just roar together with such passion. It felt awesome. I wanted to do it as well. I wanted that emotional group feeling they all seemed to share. And so I learned the songs. Maybe at first it didn't sound very well, but I learned them all eventually. And it was my initiative. It wasn't work, it was fun, it was a goal. In other words, I cared. This leadership by example is broadly applicable to D&D and RPGs. We must refrain from directing the characters' feelings, or worse, the players. We must never tell them you feel curious or you feel nervous. We must never sit them down and tell them they must memorize that song and love it. We must first make them fall in love with it. And this is where the core advice of this video truly lies. Instead of trying to control the player's mindset, we must focus on what we can control, and that's what we say, and then we lead by example. For example, if we want to instill an atmosphere of anxiety as the characters explore a creepy swamp, we don't narrate how their characters start to feel nervous. Instead, we focus on our dominion, the depiction of the swamp. We describe the creepy sounds of broken twigs like someone is always behind them, the uncomfortable sensation of dirty water soaking their trousers, the scary dance of shadows projected by their torches, making it seem like the trees themselves are moving. Like they used to do at my college, instead of sitting the players down and telling them how they should feel, we start singing on our own and hope the players are drawn to us and follow along whatever tone we are going for. This takes skill, and the fear that the players will not follow along is always there, but we will never become good at it if we don't start practicing. Applying this a bit more to world building or campaign engagement, we can make the players care more about our setting if we show them how awesome it is instead of telling them, and then leading by example, taking them on a journey through the wonderful things they can experience if they explore it thoroughly. We need to make the initiative to explore the world fall on the player's side and reward them every time they take that initiative again. For example, imagine your players are exploring the forest of slumbering titans. You could have a traveler tell them all about the forest, effectively info dumping on them all the cool lore you spent hours writing about it. After 10 minutes of monologuing, your players will know a lot about the forest, but what happened was that you sat them in the ground and taught them the song. In other words, you made it about work. Now, imagine this alternative scenario. You sing them the song and hope they will want to join in. You tell them nothing about the forest aside from the name, the Forest of Slumbering Titans. Sounds evocative. People underestimate the power of names. Sometimes that's all you need to pique the player's curiosity. Now, the forest is huge. The characters will take a week to cross it on foot. As they traverse the woods, you describe huge rock formations just barely visible behind the mist, ominously similar to colossal statues. If this was enough to encourage your players to investigate, awesome! You have your players' interest. Now all you need to do is capitalize on that. If they're still neutral, that's fine. You keep singing. Naturally, they will need to camp and forage for food at nightfall. Instead of making them roll survival or something, actually describe their hunting trip. One of the rabbits they're hunting escapes to a small tunnel under a rock formation. Will the character follow? Of course they will. They're not gonna let that pesky rabbit run away. When they emerge on the other side, they finally catch the rabbit, and then they finally realize where they are. There is a clearing in the forest, and resting in the middle is what seems like a small mountain, partially hidden by trees and bushes growing on top of it. But have your players roll a perception check, because as a gust of wind partly dissipates the mist, they can now see. The mountain has the shape of a gargantuan tortoise with 2 heads, and the gust of wind is rhythmic, breaths coming from both heads' nostrils.
"Who goes there?" it says. "Leave me to my slumber, little one. I must heal my wounds for when the fight against the dragons resumes."
Just imagine what would you do as a player in this situation, how you'd feel. You were just hunting and the DM just dropped a giant 2-headed turtle colossus in front of you. What the hell? Are all the statues in the forest sleeping titans? Is the very earth you're stepping in a titan? And what the hell was that fight against the dragon thingy? This is a very passive and consequence-free encounter, but it gives all sorts of story hooks that the player can now follow, and most importantly, a lot of clues if the player wants to continue investigating that forest and its lore. In fact, if your players bite this hook and try to investigate more about the forest, the titans, or the dragons, keep giving more details to them. Reward the fact that they took the initiative to explore the campaign's lore. Keep adding more stuff, more layers of things to discover. If you keep encouraging this behavior, soon your players will start doing it on their own. And if they don't bite this hook, that's fine, keep singing. I can promise they will eventually find something they feel curious about. But the trick is, it will seem like they are doing it all on their own initiative. And because of that, every investigation will feel self-driven, every discovery will feel like a conquest, and every victory will feel truly earned. There's always the chance the players will never bite on any of these hooks you keep singing, but that's fine too. If that's how they want to play the game, it's their own prerogative. The core message of this video is simply to focus on what you can control and lead by example instead of forcing or conditioning your players to care about your game. But if you want more weapons to make your players engage with your campaign more, next week I will publish a video containing 5 very low effort tips to make players care more. I will link it here as soon as it gets out. Consider this video the prologue of that. And if you think this video has helpful advice, you can help it reach more people if you press the like button down there. You have my very heartfelt thanks for doing that. That is all for now. Thank you for watching. I'm the first Arcadian, and it does not do well to dwell in dreams and forget to live.